Welcome in, everyone, to another deep dive, ready to explore some more fascinating ideas. This time we're diving into a philosophical excerpt I found. Really makes you think about life and death and how they're all connected through memory.
Yeah, it's a really thought-provoking piece, full of poetic imagery that, makes you see the world in a new light.
Yeah, it grabs your attention right from the start.
Yeah,
It says, "The dead are not silent. They move through us like wind through the leaves of a tree, their voices twisting in the rustle of memory, shaping the fruit we offer to the future."
wow. Powerful stuff, right. It hits you right away with this idea that, the past, it isn't really gone. It's like still here, living inside us, and shaping who we are and who we'll become.
It really makes you think about all those things we do, like family traditions,
Mm.
or even those little habits we get from our parents. Like, are those really ours? Or are we just sort of carrying on something that's been passed down for generations?
That's such a good question, and the excerpt actually goes deeper into that with this beautiful metaphor about a mango ripening on a tree.
Oh, yeah, I remember that part.
It says, "The mango ripens not from its own will, but from the buried seed's whispered instruction, a soft plea carried upward through the roots, through the sap, into the sunlit flesh."
So even something as simple as a mango, like a piece of fruit, it has this whole history behind it, like this whole chain of events that led to it being there.
Exactly. It's not just a mango. It's like the culmination of everything that came before it.
And when we eat that mango, it's like we're not just eating it right, like we're taking in its history in a way.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, when we eat that mango, are we just consuming it or are we somehow connecting with its essence, its whole journey?
Right.
It's like we're part of a cycle that goes way beyond our own little lifespan.
Oh, yeah. That idea of a cycle comes up again later on, too. It says, "To eat is to commune, to draw into oneself the ghost of a tree that once held the same sky, the same rain." I love that line. It's like it blends the physical and the spiritual so beautifully.
It's a powerful reminder that we're connected to something much larger than ourselves, And that connection to the past, it's even more clear when it talks about how we wear the dead like cloaks.
Oh, yeah, that image.
Mm.
It really stuck with me. The fabric of their words and gestures stitched into our movements. It's like everything we do,
Hmm.
even like pouring a cup of tea,
Yeah.
it can be seen as like a continuation of something that our ancestors did.
Right. It really gets you thinking, doesn't it? And it even gives an example. It says, "A woman leans over a table to pour tea, and her hand, was it not her grandmother's hand, once pouring the same tea into a different silence?"
So is anything we do really our own choice? Or are we just sort of acting out patterns and behaviors that have been passed down to us?
That's a big question for sure. And it actually leads us to another important metaphor in the excerpt, the chariot of breath.
A chariot, yeah.
Yeah.
It's described as rolling forward through the centuries with us just along for the ride. It makes you feel pretty small,
Yeah.
like we're part of something much bigger, but we don't have much control over it.
Right. It says, "The chariot of breath rolls forward, the wheels creaking softly through the centuries, and we are passengers in a vehicle we did not build nor steer." So we're on this big journey, but we didn't choose the path, and we definitely aren't holding the reins.
So if we're not in control, then what does that mean for how we live our lives? Should we just sit back and enjoy the ride?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting, because even though it highlights how little control we have over the whole journey, it also says that we do have a part to play.
Ah, I knew there was a but coming.
But, and this is really important, even though we're passengers on this chariot, we're not just sitting there doing nothing. We can still influence the journey in small but important ways.
So it's like we're on a train, but we can choose where to sit and who to talk to and what to do while we're riding.
Mm.
Our individual choices still matter, even if we can't control the whole train.
Exactly. And those choices are shaped in part by the dead, that we wear the legacies we carry. So while we may not be steering the chariot, we can choose how we live with the past, how we honor the flames that came before us.
Flames, yeah. That's another image that keeps coming up. The excerpt talks about this river of wicks, where every flame burns itself out to light the next one.
It's a beautiful image, right?
It is. But I'll admit, I'm not totally sure what it means.
Well, it speaks to this idea of continuity, like how knowledge and experience are passed down from generation to generation. Each flame is like a life, a spark of consciousness. And when it goes out, it lights the next flame in the chain, keeping the river of life flowing.
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
So even though our individual flame eventually goes out,
Yeah.
we're all part of this unbroken chain, carrying the light forward.
It's humbling and inspiring at the same time, for sure.
And it brings up a good question. If we're all flames in this river, then what responsibility do we have to make sure the light keeps burning?
That's a great question, and one we should definitely explore further. But first, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how this river of wicks connects to the idea of memory.
Oh, that's an interesting connection. Because the excerpt also says, the river flows on, its wicks leaning forward, each flame consuming itself to light the next, until all of time stands ablaze, a single, unbroken fire. It's like the river itself is a form of memory, a record of all the lives that have ever been lived.
It's like this massive river of memory flowing through time. But what about the things we forget? The excerpt mentions a chasm of forgetting, those places where memories just fade away and stories get lost.
Right. It's interesting, isn't it? Forgetting. It's a big part of life, too, just as much as remembering. And yet the excerpt says that even the things we forget, they're not really gone. Like they leave these little traces, echoes that pop up in unexpected ways.
Yeah, like that line that says, a lamp leans its glass face into the darkness, the flame within flickering like a thought unspoken, trembling with the memory of a fire long extinguished. It's like those extinguished flames. They still have some kind of presence, a faint glow in the darkness.
It's a beautiful image. It speaks to the power of memory, Even when the original flame is gone, you can still feel its warmth and its light, even if it's just a flicker.
And that makes me think about the part about dreams.
Oh, yeah.
It says, in the dream, I see them all, their faces blurring into one another, as if time had melted into a single, endless moment. It's like dreams give us a way to access those forgotten memories, the echoes of the past that are still inside us.
Yeah. It's like dreams are this portal to our subconscious, where time and reality get all mixed up.
So it's not just about remembering things consciously. It's about being open to those other kinds of memories, too. The ones that come up in dreams or in those weird déjà vu moments when you feel like you've been somewhere before.
Absolutely. And you have to wonder what kind of wisdom or guidance might be hidden in those forgotten memories, those whispers from the past.
Like we have this whole library of stories inside us, but we've lost the card catalog.
Maybe we shouldn't try to force those memories to come back. Maybe it's more about just being open to them, letting them come naturally as we go through life.
The excerpt also talks about how even like the smallest moments can become part of that river of memory. Like there's this part where a man draws a circle in the air, but it turns into smoke. And then the smoke takes the shape of a woman's laughter.
Oh, yeah, I remember that part.
It's like this image of how laughter can transcend time,
Yeah.
and become a shared memory.
It's a powerful image. It reminds us that everything we do, all our emotions, they create these ripples that go way beyond the present moment. And they can keep touching and inspiring others long after we're gone.
It really makes you think about the legacy we're leaving behind, With every choice we make, every interaction, are we leaving behind ripples of laughter and joy or something else?
It's a good point.
Yeah.
And it ties into one of the key messages of the excerpt. It's not just about inheriting the past. It's about actively shaping the future with our thoughts and words and actions.
Like a call to be more aware, more mindful of the impact we have on the river of time.
Exactly. And to recognize that we have this power to contribute something beautiful and meaningful to that flow.
That idea of actively participating really hit me hard, because even though the excerpt talks about how vast time is and how much control we lack, it also suggests that we're not powerless.
We may not be steering the chariot, but we can choose how we ride it. We can be mindful of the legacies we carry and make choices that honor the flames that came before us.
And that brings us to another big theme, the interconnectedness of everything. The excerpt uses food as an example. It talks about how the milk turns to butter, the butter to bread, and the bread carries the taste of grass, of sunlight, of a field where no one remembers the cow.
Such a simple observation, right? But it says so much. Every bite we take connects us to this huge web of life. The earth, the plants, the animals, the people who grew and prepared our food.
It's a good reminder that we're all connected, whether we realize it or not.
And it even suggests that those connections go beyond the physical world, too. It says, but the cow remembers, even in its absence, its essence threading through the warmth of the loaf. So even though the cow isn't physically there, it's like its spirit, its essence is still present in the bread we eat.
It's a really beautiful way to look at it. Like we're always absorbing the essence of what came before us.
And it's not just about food. The excerpt also says, their voices rise, woven into the steam of tea, the smoke of candles, the scent of aromas dusk where two lovers sit, not knowing their words are already echoes. Like these echoes from the past are all around us, woven into our everyday lives.
Like we're surrounded by ghosts, but not in a creepy way. It's more like we're swimming in a sea of memories.
Yeah.
Experiences that have shaped the world we live in.
Exactly. And maybe the key is to just be more aware of those echoes, to listen for the whispers of the past in those everyday moments.
So instead of seeing the past as something separate, something that's over and done with,
Mm.
we can see it as something that's alive and present within us,
Mm.
shaping our thoughts and feelings and actions.
And that awareness can be really powerful. It reminds us that we're part of something so much bigger than ourselves. And it can inspire us to live more intentionally, to make choices that honor the legacies we carry.
It really makes you rethink time, doesn't it? It's not just this straight line from past to present to future. It's more like a swirling tapestry where all of time exists at once.
It's a really complex way of looking at time, for sure. And it makes you question whether things really have beginnings and endings.
Because if everything is connected, then maybe death isn't really an ending. It's more like a transformation, a merging back into that river of memory.
It's a powerful thought, and the excerpt hints at it in a few places. Like when it says, "And so the dead bloom in our mouths, speaking not as they were, but as they dreamed of becoming." It's like the hopes and dreams of those who came before us, they're still alive inside us, waiting to be fulfilled.
So it's like they're living through us in a way, not just in our memories, but in our hopes and dreams.
Yeah, like we're carrying their unfinished business,
Right.
their potential,
It makes you think about responsibility, too.
right?
If we're carrying all this inside us, all these memories and dreams, how do we honor them? How do we keep those flames from going out?
That's a tough question. I think each of us has to figure that out for themselves. But the excerpt does offer some ideas. It talks about being mindful of our actions, recognizing that everything's connected, and listening for those echoes of the past.
So it's not about like building statues or obsessing over family history.
Yeah.
It's about living in a way that honors those connections to the people who came before us.
Exactly. It's about realizing that our lives are part of this bigger story, this grand narrative. And when we live consciously, when we make choices that honor those connections, we keep those flames burning bright.
There's this one line that really gets to me. It says, "The air hums, fragrant with melted wax and distant ash, as if the dead themselves were breathing softly through its glow." It's like the past is right here with us, like we're breathing it in.
It's such a powerful image. It really makes you feel like the past isn't separate from us at all, like it's woven into the present.
And then it brings back the river image, describing it as a river of wicks, where each flame leans forward to touch the next one, creating this chain of light that goes all the way back into the shadows.
It really shows how every life adds to the flow of time. Like each flame lights the way for the ones that come after. And even the smallest act of kindness, the tiniest bit of light, can have a ripple effect that lasts way beyond our own lifetime.
It makes you realize that our lives, they matter, even if they seem small.
Yeah.
They're part of something so much bigger than we can even imagine.
And that can be really comforting. It gives you strength to face the hard stuff and appreciate the little things, and it helps you live with a sense of purpose and connection.
And then the excerpt ends with these amazing lines. It says, "I awake with a taste of ash on my tongue, and in the mirror I see not my face, but the flicker of 1,000 flames, each one mouthing a name I have yet to remember."
Ooh.
Yeah, it brings you right back to the beginning,
Right?
to that idea that we're all carrying these memories of countless lives.
Mm.
But it also adds this layer of mystery, like there's something just beyond our grasp.
It's like those unnamed flames, those forgotten memories. They represent the vastness of the past, the hidden parts of ourselves. It's almost like an invitation to go on a journey of self-discovery, to explore those parts of ourselves and uncover the stories that are waiting to be told.
And maybe when we remember those forgotten names, when we bring those flames back to life, that's when we really figure out who we are, our place in the grand scheme of things.
It's something to think about for sure.
This deep dive has been incredible. It's really made me rethink how I see life and death and memory. It's left me feeling awestruck
Yeah.
and so grateful for the connections we all share.
Yeah, it's a gift to be able to stop and think about these big mysteries.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you all with this thought.
Yeah.
The excerpt says, "The dead are not silent." So if you listen closely, you might just hear them, their whispers, their stories, their dreams woven into your own life. And who knows, maybe you'll even see their faces reflected back at you.